Sorry, guys. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. We are good to go now. We'll drop in the slides for this slide deck in the chat so you have access to follow along, and many resources are linked if you need it further down. I'm Melanie Brandt, and I'm here. I'm joined with my very wonderful, incredible, and passionate counselors from our district. We're from the Cajon Valley District. I have Madeline and Janet, who will be chiming in as well. We're going to do this together. You have joined us for career counseling for elementary and middle school. And so how we use students' strengths, interests, and values to tailor their education and to start counseling, career counseling and career coaching as young as kindergarten through their strengths, interests, and values. And we have some wonderful resources for you to use, whether one-on-one, small group, and even in a classroom. So I come from a background of teaching. I was a special ed teacher for most of my career, and our two worlds are colliding with teaching and counseling. And the three of us today, we hope that you leave with some great resources to work with any and all students from kinder all the way to high school and beyond, really. So again, you have access to these slides. We have about 45 minutes, so we'll get you out on time. I know some of us are multitasking. Feel free to be behind the scenes and eating your lunch, listening. A few times we'll have you join in, but just drop in the chat so you don't have to come off screen or unmute. Ask questions and stuff like that. The three of us will be monitoring the chat if we're not presenting. So please, interactive, reach out to us later if you come up with something where we can be here for you today and in the future. So again, thank you. Real quick, our first little thing is just kind of know who's joining us. We know it's kind of a career and a college and career readiness conference and little event here, but you know, what grade do you teach, or what is your position, and then what level of RYOSK are you? Are you a 1, never heard of it? 2, you've heard about it, you know your RYOSK would be a 3, and 4, you are integrating RYOSK into your practice, whether you're a counselor or you might be an elementary or middle school or teaching. What's your level? Just kind of see who we have in the session today. So 1, 2, 3, or 4, and perhaps your name, grade, or position, so we can kind of see the variety of who we have. So we have some counselors, middle school counselors, K-8 counselors. We have some 2s and 3s, which we were hoping for, because we know counselors tend to get some RYOSK in their coursework as you are going through becoming a counselor. Some of us are 1s, and that's fine too. You're going to get a little more knowledge today and how you can integrate some of it into your practice. So good variety of experiences, grade levels, who you work with, lots of counselors. I love it. Graduate students, elementary counselors, all kinds of great diverse here in our group. Wonderful. Okay. 2s and 3s for the most, but we have some 1s. And of course, this is what I do. So I am a 4, but I've had time, and I have been working with the world of work and RYOSK for many years. So after today, we will all be 2s and 3s, and possibly even thinking about being 4s. So thank you for doing that. So we have a variety of learners in the session. We're going to skip through this. We don't have to really want to honor your time. We think of career development in our world. We integrate it in our classrooms, and that it's a human process. And as counselors, we know that there's a lot on your plates. I mean, even in the past year and a half, 2 years, things have shifted in our world that you need to attend to, and sometimes career development isn't really on the forefront there. But what we want to happen is that this is integrated in the counseling, yes, and also in the classrooms, and that it's a human process. Having time to talk, have conversations, show students if they show interests or strengths in a subject matter, or some sort of thing they like to do, if they have artistic talents, or they really like that hands-on learning, you know, pointing them into a direction of certain careers that they could be of interest to them. And we could be doing it as young as kindergarten through elementary school, middle school, and having that awareness to have that conversation. And anybody on the school site can be equipped with the knowledge of RYOSK, and that can be having conversations with our students. Parents, we like to join forces with parents and caregivers and anybody in the family that's caring for the child, as we know that they're we equip them as the child's first career coach. So it's a human process, and Dr. Ian Martin kind of stated that about assessments. We don't want to just give them a test, get a printout, and then say, okay, well, this printout here showed you should go into such and such career. Go ahead. No, we can have conversations ahead of time as they're growing. So career development is a human process, and we can all take part in that. This is my last year before I left the classroom to do career development and coaching trainings full time. My last fourth grade class, that really integrating RYOSK and getting to know each student's individual interests and strengths really changed the kind of the community of the class. They no longer looked at each other based on who was like the smartest and maybe the students who got pulled out of class for IEP minutes, but they understood what their unique talents were. And when they were doing group work or having to pick groups for projects or wanting to group up and do different things, they were starting to say, I want Caitlin in my class, in my group. She's an artist. We have to draw a blueprint. She needs to be in my group. Douglas needs to be in my group. He can computer code really well, and we have to design a roller coaster using Scratch. And if you, knowing what I knew about those two students, those were the students who usually typically struggled either academically or had a hard time sitting still. But now they were being sought after and fought after to join the groups because they had these great strengths and unique talents that their classmates were more aware of. And my little friend there, he designed a Minecraft game, and he spelled out WOW. Prior to fourth grade, so up until third grade, the last day of school, I went to file his report card. And up until he was in the class that we looked at, strengths, interests, and values in the RYOSK implementation, he had 13 suspensions from kinder to third grade. And in that last year, fourth grade, I didn't even know that till the end of the year, he had 0. Because the classroom, his classmates had a different outlook on him. They now saw his talents and his strengths versus what he had done beforehand. So it really changed. This young man's now in 8th grade, and I still get texts and updates, at holidays from his dad and grandma checking in. So it just really impacted this classroom and kind of the why I believe in this so much and why I'm here today, joining with my 2 colleagues to share with you the beauty in kind of grounding your work in students' strengths, interests, and values and career development as the outcome. So that's my friend there, Jessie.
So as you know, the landscape of work has changed. Even prior to the pandemic and COVID happening and all the shutdowns, there was already a shift in the way that work has been. So it's our job as educators to make sure that we expose our students to different careers that they may not have even considered before. I know the whole Instacart and Uber driving and all those things that weren't there 5-10 years ago. There's also being able to work from home, and that wasn't really seen as an option 5 years ago. Like, what? You work from home? That's kind of weird. But now it's just a very normal thing. Even Zooming and having meetings through Zooms, that's been 2 years. So we are still able to open our students' minds to different possibilities. And it's important that we show the kids, like, what can you see your possible self doing? And shouldn't we look at your strengths, interests, and values so that we can connect you to not only education, but what is it you want to learn? And they get a say in what it is that they want to learn. So we thought, how amazing is this to give the kids the opportunity and helping the workforce by changing the way that we do business in schools. So as counselors, I think I heard most of us are counselors or interns. As counselors, you know that the ratio in the United States for students, student to counselor ratio is really, really terrible. It's supposed to be 250 to 1, and it looks like only 3 states have that. I'm hoping, I think with all that's happened, we've had more support with mental health. However, it's typically not that way, and I'm hoping that it stays, that we do get the mental health support. But in the past, it's been very, California's got 400, 500, 600 students to 1 counselor, and it's very difficult. And talking about careers has fallen on counselors. It's been one of our pieces, our jobs. It's part of our standards. So when we look at the world of work and who can help us talk to kids about careers, we were thinking career coaches. Who are some career coaches that we can reach to? So not only do we have teachers and counselors and other counselors from the high school and special ed classrooms and the librarians, there's parents and grandparents, there's anyone can talk to a kid about a career. And in this picture you see at Cajon Valley Middle School, this used to be a library, but we have teamed up with, what is it called? San Diego Workforce Partnership. And we developed a career development launchpad for students where they can look for resources and do career exploration at one of our school sites. And you see a picture of a team of different career coaches. They're not counselors. And that's the beauty behind doing World of Work, is that we can team up together and expose students to different types of jobs that they may never have considered before. So that's what's wonderful about having kids and having your team talk to kids about different types of jobs. What is it they like to do? What is it that they value? What is something that they're interested in? What are they good at? And how do we make that into a job where it doesn't feel like it's a job? It doesn't really feel like work. It's just something that's super rewarding for them.
And some of the kind of the research here is mentioned, and if you have time, you can look this up further, but the main things are the interests, and that's, if you are interested and you love what you do, that job satisfaction is increased, and also your job performance. And parent involvement or guardianship or whoever's in raising the child, those are also increases their likelihood as far as going into a career that they'll enjoy and being gainfully employed. And so involving our parents, we try to train our parents in understanding the language of RYOSK, understanding to look at that strengths base versus weaknesses, and giving them some tools so that they can have conversations and that human connection with their own children. And then career talks and exposure. And I know usually you have career days, you invite professionals into classrooms sometimes, but that really is an important piece. And now actually with the Zoom, since we're a little more familiar, many times it's easier to maybe get a parent or a volunteer to Zoom in. And so students really get a little more engaged and excited when they can actually see the professional's workplace. And a 30-minute little conversation talking about the career, showing them how they do it and how they work, it can be very powerful, both in that the student might be interested in pursuing it, but also maybe realizing, yeah, that's probably not something I really want to do. That doesn't look like me or sit with me or align to my unique strengths, interests, values. And that's just as powerful as if why you did like meeting a certain pro. So those three things is kind of what we cover in our conversations, and bringing our professionals, the parent involvement, and then that interest really is our foundational work. Up and coming, we have some little career vocabulary for career development vocabularies. I know some of these things are newer in our world. I was in high school for 25 years ago, and a lot of these things maybe didn't exist, or we weren't really exposed to them. You kind of knew you went to college, or you kind of didn't go to college. I kind of knew of AA degrees, and I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so I know a bachelor's was important as well as getting my master's degree. But look at all those different post-secondary options that we can talk to and share with students, apprenticeships. Yes, our associates, our bachelor's, our PhD, and even, there's different ways of going about them. There's resources and then ways of working, like Madeline kind of talked about. We just kind of had, you worked full-time or you worked part-time. But there's contract employment, there's gig working, full-time internships, and unions that we can all expose our kids to. And so this is just a nice chart to see what's out there, certain vocabulary for career development, and that self-awareness column is really important. We talk about those strengths, interests, values, and abilities and skills, and even our essential skills, what's getting us hired. And if we don't have those essential skills, we may not be keeping jobs or be kind of unemployable. So ensuring our students have that, be able to communicate, making eye contact, those things that we have for essential skills is also important in the career development world. And so, like I said, everything's kind of foundations and strengths, interests, and values. And our strengths, if you think about it this way, it's our natural talents. Like we have natural abilities that we don't know how we're good at it. It's just natural talents. And whether that's maybe students show athletic ability, music ability, even the strength of just being able to strike up conversations in a place where you don't know a lot of people. I'm envious of that strength because that's not me. I'm very comfortable with people I know already. My husband is very outgoing. And so a lot of times in social situations, he'll strike up the conversation and I just follow up. So we have our role, but that's an envy of mine. That's a natural talent for many people. The interest component is that RYOSK, the interests. What are students naturally, what are you just interested in? What do you find time, lose track of doing and find your, in your spare time, what do you like to do as a child? And for us as adults, we were somehow interested in helping others. We wanted to fulfill ourselves and our careers with helping children and enjoying that. And we found careers that align to that. And then that last one is the values. And that's really how I think about is, when I think about going to work each day, what is making me happy when I go to work? What brings me back every day? How do I like to work? I like to work with people and in groups. So that's a value of mine. Some people like to work outside. We have our trades that work outside. Some people like to work alone and they like to maybe their workplace values working from home. So really understanding why we like to work and what's important to us is another component that we expose and talk to children about. And that's in a classroom, you think maybe they like to work alone on projects. Maybe they like to work in a team. And as a teacher, we have to understand that and make sure we balance out not always doing group work, because those students who like to work alone, that might be disengaging them. So let's make sure we balance it a little bit so that everybody kind of has a safe place to come and learn and be engaged. And so the first piece is the RYOSK. And many of us were the 2 to 3. So you've heard about it. You might know your RYOSK. And many of us were a little unfamiliar. So we're going to just touch on this a little bit. And that's kind of knowing you're the RYOSK. Your RYOSK codes, what you're interested in. And we expose all of our students, young as kindergarten, on the 6 traits, on the 6 letters, and all the traits and the characteristics of each one. So it is a research, vocational interest typology by John Holland. Tons of research, articles, videos. If you just Google John Holland RYOSK, there's tons of stuff you can dig into. There's also a paper there that if you have time, Dr. James Rounds and Dr. Sue, The Nature and Power of Interest is a really good article to read when you have time, just to kind of get some more information. So we start with grounding our work in the interests of the RYOSK. And here's just a little overview. We have our students understand what each one means and how it connects to them. Which ones do you, what we say is claim? What are your top 3 RYOSK codes? And that's, are you more of a realistic doer, investigative thinker, artistic creator, social helper, enterprising persuader, or conventional organizer? For many of us, this is familiar. You know what RYOSK stands for. You've heard about it. So exactly how does this get implemented in our world and in our practice? And that's what we'll kind of go over here next. You can see some of our students there. These are some of our kids doing each one in their own unique way, whether it's through dramatic play in the younger grades. And then we have some experiences with being able to exposure to music and TED Talks. We have a TEDx at El Cajon event, so our enterprising persuaders get up and go have the TED Talk, speaking in front of large crowds. That's something you enjoy. You have that opportunity. And then all the way to our little mathematician there organizing on the math mat. So you can kind of see how it looks from a children's perspective, all those different RYOSK codes. And big piece is dignity in all work. And so when we talk about that, we want to talk to our children about all post-12th grade options, whether that is college. And for some of us, college is the path that we'll take to get to our dream job. But also to encourage, if a student has interests and talents that align to maybe pursuing the military, going into the military, we want our students striving that want to go into the military, serving and protecting our country, and not just I didn't get into college, I didn't know what else to do, so I went into the military. we want to encourage our students, if that's your passion and that's what you want to do, let's find a way and a path to do that. And of course, we have our welder and all the tradesmen and women. It's also a wonderful career path. My husband is a union electrician, so he enjoys what he does. He hands-on tinkering, and I have lights for days all over the place. So it's really, good for me. I got all kinds of lighting things and never have a light bulb out, but that is a pathway too. The trades are a really good path for our students who that's their learning style, that's their interest. So dignity in all work. And when this is integrated in a classroom, it's a program that has some lessons for our classroom teachers. You can see all the different simulations. So students actually put on and have a simulation and kind of dramatic play or pretend play all these different careers. And you can see a variety of exposures of different dignity in all work post 12th grade careers, from a chef to a marketing manager, theme park engineers, to our cosmetologists, our carpenters, and then of course like a university faculty member that needs that PhD, and on the job training, all those enterprising entrepreneur, owning your own business. So exposure to all different types of careers and all different types of post 12th grade avenues. So dignity in all work is a big piece of it too. So what we do, if we have the time with our students, if you have maybe a small group, if you're kind of having a small counseling group, or even if you just have time for one-on-one, and again, this is done in classrooms, we want to teach the students a little bit about each one and let them understand which one sounded most like you. Which one did you really stick with? It? Yes, that's definitely me. And then your second most one you connect with, and your third one. And there's different tools and resources that we've linked here. And to time, we can't go through it all like we usually like to, but we'll just give an overview. So here's just a quick little overview. You could share this with your students just to kind of get them thinking about, what each theme is, what are some traits, and then careers that connect to that. We have, there's some videos linked here from the University of Buffalo that has this video is drawn, and students will tally and kind of look at and listen to what they connect with most. And you can show all these videos to kind of see what they like. They're 1 minute long. This is the video linked here. Because of time, we can't go through all of these, but it's just a good way to overview the hand-drawn narrative. Somebody narrates as it's being drawn. It's a really good way to expose them to the different characteristics and traits.
People who identify.
Just some overview. Again, this is if you have some time to kind of go over, talk to them about the traits, those resources here, and you would go through and they would kind of resonate and tally what sounds like them. Here's the additional slides. I know we're short on time, but if you wanted to go into all the slides are there with all the traits and characteristics, if you wanted to show this as a slideshow with a small group classroom or even with one-on-one support. So that is linked there. And then also for if you have less time to really go through and dig deeper, but sometimes with our older students, you can take these scientific inventories. It's a quick little short assessment. It depends on how much time you have. Each one's ask the similar questions and gets to the results, so the student can get their RYOSK, the ONET interest profile, or I've used as young as 4th grade. The University of Hawaii has one that you can actually print out and tally if you want to do it by hand and have more of a conversation with the students. The Workforce Partnership has an option. You can do a 6-question one, a 30-question, or a 60, and it generates, and they're pretty comparable to most all connected to the ONET. But if you were to kind of go through it and say, yes, I'm social, realistic, conventional, it aligns pretty closely. So these are some, they're linked there. You can give to a child to get their RYOSK code. Like I said, 4th grade up can really use these. Okay, they're able to do that. University of Hawaii one has a really great function for translation. So using this, so they at least start with that RYOSK piece. Some other connections, because if students are like, what am I learning this for? Ohio State, Oklahoma, and some other colleges align their majors by RYOSK. So you can go in and the first 2 RYOSK codes, you can look on there. It's connected there to PDF and double check. Okay, if I'm social, realistic, what are some, mentioned majors that I might find of interest and continue and finish my degree? A list of occupations by RYOSK. The ONET is a good resource to kind of put in a career, and then it's going to give you all the skills and knowledge you need, as well as some of the RYOSK codes connected to that career. This is the CTA pathway. We connected with our local high school district is Grossmont, and so we took their CTA pathways and showed students, if you are claiming these certain RYOSK codes and you're looking at a CTE pathway for high school, here's some great connections. And here's a good way to kind of look at what high school might be the best option for you if you have certain pathways in mind. So that's a document. If your local high school district as well, or your own school has it, you can see what we did there and reach out to us. We can help you design that too. Some samples of classrooms. You can see how it's integrated in classrooms, like I said, when you have time, but there's some pictures and videos there of how it's being integrated at the classroom level as young as kindergarten. And then we'll go on to strengths.
So think about, especially as a counselor, think about the kids that get sent to you that are probably like high flyers, or you know them very well, they're sent to you for whatever reason. How do we reframe our thinking about what their strengths are? So it's super important that, as counselors, we're always trying to find out, what are you good at? Are you a leader? Are you persuasive? Are you a helper? Are you a social person? And how do we integrate those strengths? If you've ever pulled in a student and asked them what their strengths are, maybe when they're younger, they can spit them out, but as they age, especially in middle school and high school, it's like, I don't know. Or it's something that you're like, okay, well, I'm not sure if that's really, but let's keep digging a little deeper. So if you are having kids that are sent to the office or are a frequent flyer, just ask them, what do you think you're good at? Why, instead of, okay, you got sent out again, let's change the conversation. What do you think you're good at? So that we can start the conversation of career. So in the video, I think it's a few minutes. We don't really have time, but thinking about using the language of strengths to better answer job interview questions that align to the job that they want to apply to. So this year, our district opened up a high school, Bostonia Global, and my students are required to do an elevator speech, or an elevator pitch. I forgot what he called it. So basically for back to school night, what they're going to do is they have to write about things that they're good at, their interests and their values, and they have to pitch themselves to their parents. And the reason why we have the students doing this exercise is because our students are required to get internships. And the only way to get internships is to sell yourself. And it is taken probably 3 weeks for kids to really put together, what are my strengths? Why are these my strengths? So how great is that if they already started the conversation in the younger years to just keep the conversation going? Like, oh, you remember when you were, in 3rd grade that you're really good at being a leader. Well, let's have this, it'll keep coming up, right? It'll be something that should be normal language for them as the years go by, which is really nice.
And then that last piece of the SIV, or strengths, interests, values, is that values. And that's really what comes down to your workplace. So here we have what typically is a conventional organizer, which is like IT, computer software developer, but also a farmer. And so really the decision is, how do I want to come to work? Do I want to work possibly in a small team alone at home, in a cubicle on a computer, which is great? Or do I prefer outdoor, hands-on, sun up to sundown type of seasonal work, because you only have so much time when you're a farmer? So it really comes down to that values piece. And that kind of shows that here to how you like to work and what brings you to work every day, makes you happy.
So for middle school counselors, what we do is we meet with students that don't make the mark for graduation or promotion, the 1.5s and below, or whatever is your requirements. Usually they're the kids that have attendance issues, or they're just they've got referrals or whatnot. So instead of pulling these kids and sitting them down and talking to them about, okay, so, you're failing, you might not graduate, we're changing the conversation. And we've created this academic review conversation, which is now the SIV conversation reflection. And we talk about the kids' strengths, interests, and values. And by the way, there's all hyperlinks throughout the presentation. So anything with an underline, that is a hyperlink. So the strengths, interests, and values for counselors, you click that, you'll get to the sheet that you see right in front of you on the left or the right. And so what we do is that we just have a quick conversation about what RYOSK is. We have the kids report, what do you think your letters are? And then I went through each of the videos or I did the test with them. And then we would write down whatever it is the test said. And then kids get to look at both and say, like, if there's a difference, these are the ones that I want to actually claim. And this is why I want to claim them, because I think I'm more this or that or the other. I think as kids age, because their RYOSK letters could change, I think they'll see that they can, that they are more gravitated towards something else, because there were a few kids that they were equally the same on every single letter, which made it really challenging. So being able to have them claim the letters was really helpful. And if you see, it's actually a 4-page document. So you'll see on the second page about strengths, interests, and values. So the second and third and the fourth page. So it helps you. It's a great conversation piece to have with your students. And it could be throughout the whole year, different parts of different times of the year. Instead of doing an academic review, we're going to go over our SIV conversation reflection sheet of, okay, now that we know this, what else are we going to do? How else can we use our strengths to do better in school? What interests can we have so that we can delve into different electives that we may not have even considered? And what do we value so we know what kind of job we want? So it's a nice way to just change the conversation.
And again, different ways to meet that professional. So if you can invite somebody in through Zoom or in your classroom, there's a fun video. We'll go going meeting the alcohol police with some of our schools. Again, another impactful way for students to see that future work. And Miss Janet.
Okay, so we are going to do a fun little thumbs up activity right now. So this activity is a game that you can use with as a way to introduce it to the kids who you work with, whether it's like a classroom activity, and you can kind of level it up and down based on their grade level. But we're going to try it out today. And so if I'm going to read the statements, and if it sounds like you can give a thumbs up, or you can put that reaction in the chat. And it's just basically, it's helps us connect the idea that our characteristics and our everyday actions are tied to our interests and strengths. So I'm going to move the chat over. So thumbs up if you talk to people on elevators, in grocery stores, on airplanes, or wherever you go. So you can either just hold up your thumb or put it in the chat. Okay. So good. Okay. So any guesses as to what this one might be? You can just type it in the chat, like which RYOSK code this would be connected to. Okay, that's a good guess. Yeah, because I think they're all, and that's the thing about the RYOSK codes, is that a lot of them are, tied in together and interwoven. But this one sounds a lot to me like enterprising, because, able to easily strike up conversations and kind of like what Melanie was talking about before. But enterprising has a lot of social characteristics built into it as well. So the next one is thumbs up if you have a color-coded closet or otherwise organized closet. And I can't help when I see this, but think of like the Home Edit, the rainbow color organizing, or Marie Kondo, or whoever it is. So thumbs up if that's you and you have that going on. Okay. So any ideas which RYOSK code this one connects to? Okay, Carla said it right away. Conventional. Good job. Yeah, that's right. So conventional is tied a lot to organizing and organization. So those things kind of go hand in hand. Okay, ready for the next one? thumbs up if you are always figuring out the plot of the movie before anyone else does. And bonus points if you don't, or if you at least say spoiler alert before you figure it out. Let's see, any thumbs up? Is there anyone who's always trying to figure out the plot before anyone else? So which RYOSK code do you guys think this one might be tied to? Nice, investigative. Okay, good. So our problem solvers, right? Okay, so you guys kind of get the idea of how this works. And just in the interest of time, we're getting towards the end here, so we're going to just do this as fast as we can. But I wanted to share with you a couple of activities, and these are some takeaways, things you can hopefully use with your kids as an educator. So whether you're a counselor in the classroom, I think they work for both. And I know that as educators, we have just so many things on our plate, and especially right now. So I'm hoping that these are just, for me anyways, they were quick school-wide things that I could implement, and I think they would work really well and transition seamlessly to a classroom as well. So at the school where I work, we already have a leadership council, and we focus on the 7 habits of happy kids. So the integration between World of Work and those 7 habits has been really just wonderful and seamless. But even if you don't have a character development curriculum, or you don't have the World of Work curriculum, I think the main idea is remembering to incorporate student strengths and interests in the process of all the things that we do daily. So I think since we're down to the wire, I don't know, Melanie, do you want me to just tell them that there's links there and they can kind of click through them and send me questions if they want?
Yeah, or just maybe take maybe 1 more minute.
Okay, cool. So this one is our leadership team's application, and it was actually born out of an idea that a student had, because we had a leadership council, but there were so many other kids at our school who wanted to get involved and really just do cool things at school and better their school community. So we were like, how do we figure out, like a way to kind of capture that? And so our students actually came up with an application idea. And they did, this was prior to all of our teachers really implementing World of Work. So this was kind of just in the beginning stages, and it was really neat because we did one of those activities where we had the kids go through and kind of identify their strengths. So our leaders were out in our friendship garden holding up the codes, and other kids were kind of identifying that way. And then they filled out an application so that they could participate in these teams. So I like to always point out our pump team because I think it's so funny, but the pump team is like the kids that go around and pump up the balls at recess. And we had our conventional kids organizing a checkoff list, and it was a whole, so all the strengths are utilized here. And it's just really cool because it's a way for kids to kind of see themselves in that light. And just based on like data collection, needs assessments, attendance, running attendance things, these things have all improved once we started implementing these teams, because there's super sneaky ways to sneak things in. Like a lot of my kids who struggle to get to school in the morning, we put them on the traffic squad. So they were there bright and early, part of that team. So that's, and if you have any questions and you want to use this, you can always send me an email and I could tell you more. And then the next slide is just a vision board that the kids use. So super simple, straightforward. Our older elementary school kids were really able to do this. So I think probably upper elementary and older. And then our younger kids, I just had them do it on paper. But if you click on the link, you'll see it's a whole presentation that I go through. And then I paste the RYOSK codes at the end. So the kids are able to, set goals and utilize their strengths when they're setting these goals. Rather than just making these goals, they're thinking about how their strengths and their interests really help them in these areas. So there's a student example, I think, on the next slide that I thought came out really well and she did a really nice job.
All right, and here's some
more.
That
was fast, sorry.
No, that's okay. It's beautiful. It's another student example. You have all there for your reference. Okay, and this is just our student. He met our superintendent and he got to know him. They connected. They had the same RYOSK codes. It's a very cute video if you have time later to watch. And after meeting our superintendent, he now wants to be a superintendent of our school. So fourth grader, he's now in 8th grade and still continues to want to be a superintendent. So that exposure, that connection of RYOSK, meet a professional, it all came and connected with the world of work. And so it's a great success story of sweet Sammy there. So thank you for your time. I think we're just right on a minute away. Please reach out to us. I know somebody asked about the strengths and I didn't want to unshare the screen. So if you could email me, I can give you some more resources on how, if students are having a hard time, there's some ways to help them through that with some language and some vocabulary on strengths. And we have it from different, I've done it in classrooms as young as like 3rd grade with pictorial pictures and then up through words. So please email us with any other resources, questions, clarifications. If things are locked and not restricted access, please let us know.
Yes.
We love this work and we love sharing everything because no matter what, we want these for all children, whether they're in our district or out in the world. So it's all open to share because we love it and want all children to get access. So please reach out and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Madeline and Janet. Till the next one. Check the chats. Thank you so much, everybody.